Well, the vice president's speech was not only a moment in leadership, but also an example of the brightness of our country. I believe that today she really put out a blueprint for America to turn its page. The American people have spoken. They have exercised their right to vote, which is something that she's been fighting for. And this peaceful transference of power represents what I believe most Americans want, and that is a country that's united and a country that can move on to our next chapter. But the positives here is that we have now re-energized another generation of activists. The hard thing for us is looking at policies. There are policy areas that we have challenges with, and we believe that Vice President Kamala Harris was the one that would align with many of our values. However, the new president, we will have to see what will happen. We've seen that presidency before. There are concerns about health care for us as an African-American mother, as an African-American woman, education, economic development. These policies don't always align. So we'll see what's going to happen, but we know that advocates are going to continue to fight.
Don't worry, lady. It's been a month since the election. He's on it. Let's get busy. Remember, don't like, share, or subscribe. What are you trying to do? Blow up the channel or something? I got enough on my plate.
It feels disheartening, and it feels very divisive. Literally, half of our country voted for one way of life, and the other half voted for another. It does feel, it feels like we've, in some ways, almost for a temporary defeat, but not long term. We believe that this is going to be a phoenix rising, that there's going to be a turn in this process, and that many people who were not engaged before now understand their actual vote does count. They're going to show up again. I think 2026, 2028 will be a different story.
So now it's been over a month since the election. And of course, this is why the left loses. Because they don't realize, or lost, maybe it's better to say that, of the last 16 or so years, you've had 3 Democratic leadership terms. And yet we're here. Okay? So here we are. They want to find the next group of activists. You need to find the next group of policymakers that speak to the largest percentage of the electorate. Trump won by 2.5 million some odd votes. It's not half the country. If you actually look at the country is relatively conservative, very red. If you look down at the county levels throughout the entire country, many of these counties are very red with splotches of blue cities in there. These blue cities that allow for the sanctuary nature of people to illegally immigrate into the country and take taxes from taxpayers and allow these people a reward for their first act, which was a criminal act, to break into the country. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't come here and help us to better our society, but you come here and you join Team America and you pay your taxes, you stand in line, you wait till your ticket gets punched so that you can be an American and contribute to this great experiment. It's been going on for 250 years. Let's get back to it.
I thought she did a phenomenal job. She ended the campaign with optimism and hope, which is what people needed. And so I just hope she knows just how proud of her we all are. I'm saddened by the results. I think the vice president ran, a phenomenal campaign. She tried to unite so many different people and bring people together. So it's sad that we just did not cross that finish line. But I think despite people being sad today, I think people are going to be fired up for tomorrow. That's basically what the call of action was, is that we accept the results of the election, but we have to end this with optimism and hope. And so I think people are going to carry that optimism and hope forward.
It's so great to look backwards now that it's been over a month since the election. They tried going negative when positive wasn't working. And then she tried to pivot back to positive again, potentially right at the end. And on election night, you just slowly started to see all of these left-leaning radical pundits just wither into defeat. They had to know that she wasn't the candidate that should have been leading the party. She was anointed. It was Joe Biden's FU to the party for forcing him out. Now they're eating each other. Obama is pissed off. George Clooney's mad that he got used to single-handedly write Biden off the ticket, and Biden, who then said, screw you, well, here you go. I'm going to give you the DEI hire that I brought onto the ticket. She was never qualified. He should have stuck to the game plan. In January, he should have said, let's start to transition into putting the most able-bodied, elected person at the head of the party. I'm going to endorse my vice president, but may the best candidate win. She would have been knocked out by many other up-and-coming potential superstars on the left-leaning ticket. And they would have had to do what Trump had to do, which was fight it out to get the nomination. He didn't even need to step on the stage, and he was the chosen candidate. So if there was such a call for her to be the candidate, the electorate would have spoke. But they're concerned about Trump usurping democracy. Let's keep going.
Folks are really, really disheartened. People are very, I think, scared about what this means. I feel like, and I've been talking to a few friends about this, this isn't even so much about race. It feels like it's more about women in general. Like the country wasn't comfortable ready for a woman. They're not comfortable protecting women's reproductive rights. When you look at some of the data about what kind of pushed Trump over the top, it was male voters and voters of color. So I feel like also too, a lot of Black women are feeling betrayed by our brothers in the movement who decided to move in a way that wouldn't necessarily stand up for the freedoms and protection of women.
And I hope the left is having a come to Jesus moment, looking back at this kind of nonsense. This is why you lost. Okay? The brothers didn't walk away from women of color and take away your rights. The same night Trump gets elected, there was abortion rights codified into many of the states' constitutions, which is exactly what he wanted. The federal government needs to be out of those decisions. Let the states decide. And that's what happened. Okay? And, young lady, across the board, Trump won all of those persons. He won the woman vote. He won the men vote. He won the persons of color's vote. He won older folks. He won younger folks. Okay? He won across the board. Not taking away anybody's rights. He's allowing the states to decide how they want to dole out those decisions, and the electorate decides how best they want to deal with those subjects and keeps the federal government out of it. So nobody let you down. They were just free-thinking Americans who decided this is the best policy prescription for the country. A policy prescription that makes sense.
I think that the Democratic Party really needs to have a full awakening. I think there's been an assumption with the Democratic Party that, okay, you're going to automatically get Black voters, right? And we don't have to necessarily do anything, but we can automatically get Black voters because we're not as racist as the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party has been very good at shifting that narrative. They built a decent coalition. I mean, you had Latinos, you had Blacks, you had women, they built a decent coalition that's proven fruitful, right? And so I think that there's got to be a real examination.
Hopefully this woman is not anywhere in Democratic leadership because she clearly doesn't get it. The Republican Party is the big tent of diverse voters. The Democrat Party comes back to the persons of color community every 4 years and says, we expect your vote. We're not really doing much for you, but we expect your vote. And you know what? Those communities woke up and said, you know what? This party is not for us. They expect, obnoxiously, as if they're entitled to our vote. So the Republican Party is now the big tent party of all classes, socioeconomic and diversity of types of communities, of voters. What don't you see? But why do these people now decide to ascend to the Republican Party? Because it's the party of big ideas, optimism, winning, go, go, go. Whereas the left is just a party of just, why me? We're the victims, poor us, blue-haired, long-nailed, crazy, lunatic, academic elites that want to indoctrinate people into what to think, not how to think. That's why you lost. And chances are, if you continue to allow your party to maintain these ideas of policy and platitudes, you're going to have a tough time winning in the next 2 and 3 elections. Just saying.
I think the black vote, men and women, you have a savvy voter. You don't have people listening to Big Mama anymore making their decisions about voting. And when you have people like Barack Obama and Roland Martin, that they're speaking down to the black community, Charlemagne the God, now that you're bringing on, and you're speaking down actually to intelligent black men. But because they don't agree with your democratic rhetoric, they become what? Uneducated. They become stupid, even utilizing the stimulus check as a reasoning.
Amen, sister. That's the smartest thing we just saw in all these clips. These voters are savvy. Black men, black women. More than half of the community of black men are in the middle class, single and available. They are people that are contributing members of society, okay? They are educated, they are intelligent, they are shrewd, and they certainly don't like being spoken down to, and they finally decided we don't need to listen to it. Now, the vast majority of those men are still in the left-leaning ticket, but they're starting to migrate now to the right because it makes sense, because the color that matters in this country is green. And high tides lift all boats. So if the right policy prescriptions in place and all communities, all people start to do better, that is just better for us, a nation as a whole. God bless America. Cross your fingers and hope that the next 1 to 2 years is a renaissance of unseen proportions, and that these high tides lift all boats.